Chapter 13, The Reformation. The Reformation was a time in which revolutionists sought to reform society with new ideas and a schism from the Roman Catholic Church. Erasmus wrote the Handbook of Christian Knight, which reflected his occupation with religion and emphasizes criticisms about the Church. Luther stated that humans are not saved through good works, but by strong faiths and the promises of God, and said that a weak human could not possibly be good enough for the Almighty God. He stapled his 95 Theses to the door of the Church, criticizing his complaints about the Church and indulgences, and he was banished by the Edict of Worms. Luther fled to Augsburg horseback. He translated the New Testament to Germans to reform the values and the rules of the Church. German peasants were overtaxed by the lords, and although Luther did not support the clergy, he needed them for his own ideas. Charles V from Spain had many conflicts with France and Germany, as well as the Ottoman Empire, which had taken over Constantinople and had control in the Balkans. More was familiar, and other humans were a close friend of Erasmus. He praised his household as a model of the Christian family life and wrote Utopia. Women's role was small. They were expected to stay at home, and they were not respected. They were not perceived as intelligent. It was often difficult for them to get educated.
Some Enlightenment thinkers sought to fix the corrupt popes that gave people false hope of achieving salvation and collecting indulgences for it. Is one of the driving forces of the Reformation. Galen was a Swiss priest that fought for the restoration of Christian morals in church and state through a faithful maintenance of the doctrines of the church. Zwingli was a Swiss reformer who focused on reforming the corrupt church rather than trying to create a new one. He and Marburg Colloquy was a meeting at Marburg Castle in which Luther and Zwingli go into a heated discussion about transubstantiation and consubstantiation. The Anabaptist believes that the Christian church was a voluntary association of believers and thought that people should be baptized as adults, not children. The English Reformation began because King Henry VIII wanted a divorce from Catherine of Aragon because she could not provide him with a male heir. The church refused to grant him one, so he formed his own church. Henry had all of 6 wives during his reign. These wives either died or he divorced them. Only one of these marriages resulted in a male heir who did not live long enough to ascend the throne permanently. Calvin adhered to the idea of justification and placed emphasis on the absolute sovereignty of God. One major idea was predestination, that God predetermined who was going to be saved and who was going to be damned.
The French Wars of Religion began because of Catherine de' Medici, who succeeded King Henry II, was determined to wipe out the Huguenots. The war finally ended with the Edict of Nantes. Philip II reigned in Spain. He was the husband of Mary I from England. The slogan of the Dutch Revolt, "No taxation without representation," sparked the revolt when Charles V reigned. During Philip II's reign, it was opposing the Catholic Reformation forced upon the kingdom. The Jesuits found by St. Ignatius of Loyola was the key aspect in the Counter-Reformation as they pursued the establishment of Catholic schools to oppose the Protestant Reformation. Elizabeth I is commonly known as the Virgin Queen, who was one of the greatest English monarchs. During her 45-year reign, she promoted Protestantism and avoided conflict. Many artists flourished under her, like Shakespeare. Elizabeth sought to make friends with other nations because she realized that violence was bad for England, but a bloody war emerged between Spain and England known as the Spanish Flu. The Reformation can be compared to many events throughout history, including the French Revolution and the Civil War, all of which occurred because of the difference in ideas and cultural values.